Imagine waking up one day and realizing that nothing is wrong, and yet everything feels wrong. Your life looks fine from the outside. You're functioning. You wake up, scroll, work, distract yourself, sleep. You laugh at the right moments. You complain about the usual things. You tell yourself you're just tired, just stressed, just going through a phase. And yet, beneath all of that, there's a quiet pressure in your chest, a restlessness you can't name, a tension that never fully leaves. So you do what you've learned to do. You reach for relief, not always in obvious ways. Sometimes it's your phone, sometimes it's noise, music, videos, conversations that never go anywhere deep. Sometimes it's work, productivity, self-improvement. Sometimes it's food, fantasies, substances, validation, or the endless promise that tomorrow will feel better. And for a moment, it works. The pressure eases, the discomfort softens, the ache becomes distant, like a sound from another room. You breathe again. You feel normal again. But then it comes back, stronger, faster, more familiar. And that's when an unsettling question begins to form, one you instinctively push away before it becomes too clear. What if the problem isn't that you feel pain? What if the problem is that you cannot tolerate it? We're taught that pain is the enemy, that discomfort is a flaw to be fixed, that suffering means something has gone wrong. From an early age, we learn to escape, emotionally, mentally, chemically, digitally, to soothe, to suppress, to outrun anything that threatens our sense of control. But what if this instinct, this constant need to escape, is not a solution at all? What if it's an addiction? Not the kind we easily recognize, not the dramatic kind that ruins lives overnight, but a quiet, socially acceptable addiction. One that hides behind productivity, positivity, and being okay. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you sat with discomfort without trying to fix it? When was the last time you felt sadness, boredom, anxiety, or emptiness and didn't immediately reach for an escape? When was the last time you allowed pain to exist without turning it into a problem? If the question makes you uneasy, that's not an accident, because deep down you may already sense the paradox. The more desperately you try to avoid pain, the more power it gains over you. Look around. We live in the most comfort-driven era in human history. Instant gratification, endless entertainment, solutions for every inconvenience. Yet anxiety is rising. Depression is rising. Addiction, both visible and invisible, is everywhere. How does that make sense? If pain is being eliminated, why does suffering feel so widespread? Maybe because pain was never the enemy. Maybe it was the teacher. And maybe in trying to silence it, you've been cutting yourself off from something essential, something that gives depth, meaning, and direction to your life. Think about it. Every major transformation you admire, personal growth, emotional maturity, wisdom, comes from confrontation, not escape, from facing something uncomfortable and staying present long enough for it to change you. Yet most of us are running from boredom, running from loneliness, running from unresolved grief, running from the quiet voice that asks, "Is this really the life I want?" And the more skilled we become at escaping, the less capable we become of enduring. This is the contradiction no one wants to talk about. Your coping mechanisms may be the very thing keeping you stuck. The scrolling that numbs you also fragments your attention. The productivity that distracts you also prevents reflection. The positivity that comforts you also invalidates your pain. And slowly, subtly, you become dependent, not on a substance, but on relief itself. You begin to fear discomfort more than stagnation. You choose familiarity over truth. You prefer temporary peace over long-term clarity. At that point, pain no longer has to chase you. You chase escape. And the cost of that addiction isn't obvious at first. It doesn't always destroy your life. Sometimes it does something far more insidious. It keeps you functioning, but unfulfilled. Busy, but disconnected. Safe, but asleep. So here is the question that lingers, heavy and unavoidable. What if the reason you feel trapped isn't because life is too painful, but because you've never learned how to stay with pain long enough to hear what it's trying to tell you? That question doesn't demand an answer yet, but once it's been asked, it doesn't let go. And to understand why, you have to look beneath the surface, into the psychological and philosophical roots of this addiction to escape and the hidden forces that quietly shape how you live, feel, and choose. To understand why escaping pain feels so irresistible, you have to look beneath habits and behaviors, beneath even trauma, and into something far more unsettling: the structure of the modern mind. Pain itself isn't new. Humans have always suffered. What is new is how completely intolerable pain has become. At some point, discomfort stopped being a signal and started being treated as a malfunction. Psychologically, this begins early. As children, moments of distress are often rushed away. Crying is silenced. Anger is corrected. Fear is minimized. The message isn't spoken, but it's absorbed. These feelings are dangerous. Get rid of them quickly. Over time, the nervous system learns that safety equals relief, not resilience. This conditioning doesn't disappear in adulthood. It evolves. Pain becomes something to manage, optimize, medicate, or distract from. You're encouraged to stay positive, move on, be productive, and fix yourself. And while these ideas sound healthy on the surface, they often conceal a deeper avoidance, the refusal to sit with what hurts. From a psychological standpoint, avoidance is reinforcing. Every time you escape discomfort, your brain rewards you with relief. Dopamine flows, not because you solved the problem, but because you stopped feeling it. The brain doesn't care whether relief comes from growth or distraction. It only learns what reduces pain fastest. And so the loop forms. Pain arises, escape follows, relief occurs, behavior is reinforced. Over time, tolerance for discomfort shrinks. What once felt manageable now feels unbearable. Minor anxiety becomes overwhelming. Boredom feels threatening. Emotional stillness feels like emptiness. And because your capacity to endure has weakened, the urge to escape grows stronger. This is how avoidance quietly becomes dependency. But psychology alone doesn't explain why this pattern feels so deeply existential, why it touches identity, meaning, and purpose. For that, you have to look at philosophy. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that human life oscillates between pain and boredom. When we lack what we desire, we suffer. When we obtain it, we quickly grow restless. From this view, discomfort isn't a mistake, it's built into existence itself. Trying to eliminate it completely is like trying to remove gravity. Yet modern culture promises exactly that: a life without friction. This promise creates a profound contradiction. If pain is inevitable, but treated as abnormal, then feeling pain doesn't just hurt, it feels like failure. You begin to see your own inner experience as defective, something to be corrected rather than understood. This is where shame enters. You don't just feel anxious, you feel weak for feeling anxious. You don't just feel empty, you feel broken for feeling empty. And shame intensifies the need to escape. Carl Jung described this avoidance as repression, the act of pushing unwanted parts of the psyche into the unconscious. Painful emotions, unaccepted impulses, unresolved grief, they don't disappear when ignored. They sink below awareness and begin shaping behavior from the shadows. The more you escape pain, the more power it gains indirectly. It shows up as compulsions you can't explain, as relationships that repeat the same patterns, as a vague dissatisfaction that no success seems to cure. Jung warned that what you refuse to confront within yourself will appear as fate, not because the world is cruel, but because the psyche demands integration. Pain ignored doesn't vanish, it reorganizes your life around itself. Philosophically, this creates a deeper problem: the erosion of meaning. Friedrich Nietzsche argued that suffering isn't something to be erased, but something to be transformed. He believed that meaning doesn't emerge despite pain, but through it. When pain is avoided at all costs, life becomes shallow, not peaceful, but empty. And emptiness is far more frightening than pain. So people flee from pain and fall straight into numbness, mistaking it for peace.
Society reinforces this escape by offering endless anesthetics, entertainment, consumption, optimization, constant stimulation. You're rarely asked what you feel, only what you do, buy, or achieve. Stillness is treated as inefficiency, silence as discomfort, reflection as indulgence. Even self-improvement can become an escape, an endless project to fix yourself so you never have to be with yourself as you are. And slowly, subtly, something essential is lost: the capacity to suffer consciously, the ability to endure without fleeing, the courage to remain present when there is no immediate solution. This is the hidden root of this addiction to escape, not weakness, but fear. Fear that if you stop running, you'll be overwhelmed by what you feel. Fear that pain will swallow you whole. But this fear is built on a misunderstanding. Pain